Today's guest is Kelsey Denouden, founder of Have and Hold Marketing and one of the sharpest marketing minds coming out of Tassie right now. Kelsey's path into the industry wasn't the typical one. She came from a background in performing arts, retail management, and community building before turning that mix of creativity, psychology, and commercial thinking into a thriving agency. In this chat, we get into why trust matters more than ever, how brands should think about the content in the AI era, the psychology behind great marketing, learning from customer feedback, burnout, boundaries, and why some of the best ideas can come from the so-called boring industries. This episode is proudly brought to you by Sked Social, helping brands plan, collaborate, and schedule content without the chaos. Start your free 14-day trial now. Let's get into it. Oh, Kelsey, thank you so much for joining us on the Scene podcast. I've heard nothing but great things. You've actually got a good relationship with the Sked King, Rich Henson, so he recommended to get in touch with you. Chop it up. And he is the Sked King, the self-proclaimed. He's been telling everyone.
That's hilarious. It's so good. Absolutely the king. I had lunch the other week with him and Hugh and Seb, and still I'm like, even with Hugh there, Rich is the king.
I'm sure he'd like to know that. Don't worry about that. But yeah, thank you so much for jumping on and keen to unpack your journey into what you do now at Have and Hold Marketing. I'm sure it was, a little bit different, a bit off the beaten path. Can you explain a little bit how you got into your current role?
Yeah, of course. So something that I occasionally shy away from is the fact that I only graduated in 2021. In reality, I'm pretty new to the industry. If we take a bit of a step back further than that, so my background is in performing arts and then in retail management. So I kind of had those two aspects to myself. Was very much a performing artist, had to step back from that to, have a real job and make real money. Was managing retail stores and then went, don't really love this, let's go back to uni. Actually didn't know what I wanted to do. Started off in just a straight business degree, and then within the first couple of weeks, a woman named Beck came in and did a talk, and I was like, that's what I want to do, and that's who I'm going to work for. Fast forward about 18 months, and surprise, surprise, that is who I ended up working for. But in between then, I was only on campus for about 4 weeks until that pesky little virus hit. And so I did my entire degree online, at home, obviously lost that retail job, got about 3 months in and went, okay, what happens if I don't get this retail job back? And so combined this retail management, this performing arts, this arts background, and created Have and Hold Tasmania, which was a directory of Tasmanian-made products, essentially. And that was really incredible, had a massive impact from a community perspective, but didn't work very well at all from a financial perspective. So by the time I ended up in that full-time job for that person that I wanted to work for, put that to the side, thought I'll come back to that at some point. Worked in this agency for 18 months, learnt a lot, it was incredible, and then kind of went, itchy feet, I want to travel, I just want to see what else kind of is possible. So left with the intention to quietly freelance, which I think is kind of every agency owner's story, that everyone just goes, I'm just going to freelance for a bit, and then 6 months later you accidentally have an agency, which was my case, in the sense that I've got this community with Have and Hold sitting there and this really incredible brand. The marketing brain finally kicked in and I went, why aren't I utilising that brand and that community? So long story short, we rebranded that and we turned it into a marketing agency. And here we are about 3.5 years later.
And what was that thing when you were just like, that's it, that's what I want to do? What was it about the marketing world that you thought, hey, I can really add some value in here and I want to work in this space?
Yeah, I think the main thing is it's this crossover between the creativity and the psychology and the sales side of things. So having that performing arts background, growing up with an artist for a mother, I always thought that I'd be an artist, that would be the path that I went down. But then the practicalities of life kind of get in the way. In reality, I was never going to be an overly successful artist. Like, that wasn't the path that I was going to be best at. I just needed to find whatever that thing was. And then having that retail sales kind of background as well. And the other thing that I thought at one point that I might do is psychology. So it kind of like connects all of those pieces together. And I used to say, I don't write it so much anymore, but when we did a lot more work in the arts, which we sadly don't do as much anymore, but back then I used to say, like, creating Have and Hold was coming home. Like, it was the thing that joined all the dots of all the different experiences that I'd had. And I recognised that in Beck when she came to talk, that, there's that creativity, there's that sales, there's that psychology. Actually, this looks like it's really something that would be interesting and that I feel like I would be good at.
I love that. I reckon I studied psychology online for about 4 months, and I was like, I don't think I can do this because it's just so dense, and I feel like I'm not that smart and sharp to just go through all this type of stuff. But I was addicted to, like, the behavioural stuff, like why things work. Why do people think this way? How do you get people to act a certain way? And how, like, all that type of thing. I was like, this is crazy. Like, how do you dissect, like reverse engineer, like, things that are successful, and like how to market properly. Like, I'm sure that discovery was pretty crazy when you went down that rabbit hole and was like, this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah, 100%. And like, where was I working at the time? I must have just have left Cotton On. And so, Cotton On, if you think about the experience in that store, like, it's a very deliberate sales experience. And it was just so interesting to connect, okay, the way that we're being trained, and then me as a manager, how I'm training my team. When you're in that retail environment and you don't know any better, it can kind of just feel pointless. But then you're seeing the psychology side of it and you're going, oh no, now I understand. I understand why those things are set up the way that they are. And everyone hates the donation ask and the $2 shopping bag and whatever, but there's a very deliberate reason behind those things, and it works from a sales perspective. It 100% works.
I love that. I've been seeing too lately, like Coles and stuff, you can donate to different charities, and in my mind I'm like, yes, it feels like I'm doing a good thing, but I feel like they should just do it themselves a little bit. So it's like, when do you market? Like, what's the smartness level now? You know what I mean? Like, what is the foundations now for people with that trust around, well, hang on, you earned billions of dollars. Like, surely you can just donate from you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that trust has been eroded, and I would be interested to be back in that environment now, and see what that attitude is. And like, I haven't, Cotton On, are they even a publicly traded company? I'm not even sure whether they would release those kinds of numbers, but yeah, like your Coles and your Woolies, it's like, well, I know how much money you're making. You're not, I don't trust you. So yeah, I think that has eroded a little bit, which is interesting.
Do you think it all comes down to like knowing your audience and who you want to connect with? Because that way messages, it becomes a bit more focused, and and you can start seeing like results, and it's more intentional.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if you look at a Coles or a Woolies, I don't think they do necessarily think about their audience, because I was going to say they're on a monopoly. They don't, but you know what I mean. They don't necessarily have to think that deeply about it, whereas our work that we were doing in the arts previously, and like I said, we're doing less of it now, but a lot of that was fundraising, and a lot of that is trying to convince people to hand their money over. It's hard enough to convince people to hand their money over for a ticket to a show, let alone to get them to donate. So yeah, really thinking about who that target market is, which I think these big companies don't necessarily do, but the amount of work that I've done within arts organisations to sit down and map out what are those target markets and what are their motivators, and how do we speak differently to those people? How do we pull the money out of the mums and dads that we think they should be sending their kids to their circus classes, but also how do he'll hate me for saying this if he ever sees this. One of the Canva founders is loosely within my orbit, right? I won't say any more than that. He's loosely within my orbit. And so he's always on my list of like, how do we convince him that this thing is worthwhile, but that, you know, just an example of a person, people like him. So yeah, really thinking deeply about what motivates that person, what do they care about, how can we use our content to speak to that. I think that's something that your Woolies and your Coles and your Cotton On are not necessarily thinking through very deeply.
Is it listening to feedback too? Like taking comments and turning them into things? Like I'm seeing all the cool brands, like if something catches on, they're actually listening and they're making stuff around that. Is that what you encourage people when you're working with them to like, it's one thing thinking of stuff, but it's another thing to listen and then produce something?
Yeah, 100%. And not shying away from the bad feedback as well.
Yep.
Like, and there's plenty of times where you can't necessarily talk about the bad feedback, but if you can, like if there's no reason not to, then speaking about it and showing your community how you're showing up and how you're improving, again, builds that trust. I personally hate the tactic that, I want to say maybe it was 2 or 3 Black Fridays ago, where brands were like leaking like launches and discount codes to their email list. The first time it happened, sure, hilarious, and I'm sure it worked really well, but there was some brands that just kept doubling down on it, and I still do see brands do it now, and it kills me because I'm like, all you're doing is eroding trust, and you're not thinking about the fact that there's 20 other brands before you that's actually backfired for each of them. So I think you not only need to think about your own feedback, but also look further abroad and go, what's the feedback that others are getting, and not get too caught up in it because you're running your own race. But there's things that can be learned from whether a campaign has worked or not, and the impact that that has on perception, on trust, and whether your community will keep coming back to you or not.
And I think there's a big opportunity with like disgruntled people, because like the fact that they're engaging, it's like, all right, when you've started the conversation, now let me try and finish this and turn this around. And often those people become the biggest advocates, hey, because it's like you responded, you listened, you were clear, whatever, and then you gave them like a bit of a solution or something to think about. And it's like, all right, well, I just turned someone who is super unhappy into like an advocate and someone who's going to refer us by the way we handled it. And I think like that's what I think. There's just people shy away from the hard convos, I think, sometimes, because it is hard. It's like no one really likes conflict. I mean, a special few do, and that's why they succeed, I think, because they can have those hard convos and actually move forward.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going slightly off topic, but I'm just laughing about a mistake that I made once that I think is a good example of when you stuff up and you own it and how it can actually be a good thing. So once, back when I was working in my previous job, we have this business who would be one of the bigger retailers, like, you know, privately owned retailers within Tasmania. Like, we're in a tiny market, but these guys, they're big hitters in this market. Massive email list. So I was running their emails and I was running their paid ads. I managed to send an email to the entire mailing list where I had stuffed up the merge tag. So instead of bringing in the customer's name, it brought in the default name, which of course was my name because I was the one creating the email. So it was something stupid like 25,000 people got this email with my name on it. I didn't even realise that it happened until the founder picked up the phone and called me. Luckily she was laughing when I answered the phone, not screaming at me. And essentially, to rectify it, what I did is I jumped on and I sent another email taking the piss out of myself, saying Kelsey clearly just wanted all of the discount codes for herself. You can all have one anyway. Here's a 25% off code. The amount of people that picked up the phone, that went into store, that replied to the email, being like, this is the funniest thing that I've ever seen. It's so good to see that there is an actual human behind this brand. Someone please give Kelsey a hug, because I'm sure she's having a rough day, it was like one of the biggest days in sales they've ever had, because we made a mistake and we owned it, but it was a genuine mistake. It wasn't a stuff up like you see. It wasn't a setup like you see all the time now. It was a genuine mistake. We fixed it and people loved it. They thought it was great. They didn't get pissed off. Because they went, oh, I'm not really special, am I? You're just sending a mass email. They thought it was hilarious and it worked in the brand's favour.
I love that. I think you said something important there, like mistakes in an AI world, you know, where I think now people are leaning too heavily into creating moments where it's like, you know, how do we just like capture the moments that happen organically? And it's like, what is that vibe or environment that we have to create that these things kind of happen? Because I think it's hard for things to talk about a lot of the time. So when things like this happen and you can turn it into something funny, like you did with the emails, I think is like crucial to see that, people, it feels authentic because it's real. You were freaking out. The response was laughter. It's like, all right, that feels real. You're seeing an issue now with brands and people trying to make deliberate mistakes and things like that and use that sort of strategy and tactic.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it comes across fake every time. Like, I just don't think it hits now in the same way. And look, I'm sure it still works every now and then. And, you know, I have clients that'll message me being like, oh my God, did you see this thing that happened? And I'm like, it's a setup. Like, it's not real. So obviously sometimes it does work, but I think the issue is eventually when the reveal comes, your customer no longer trusts you. They no longer trust that you're going to tell the truth. And so I just think it does more harm than good.
I think in pop culture world too, one thing that I did learn was that there are like such thing as like fake beefs and things like that, where it's like just creating these moments and these tension points where it's like, do these people like each other or hate each other? Are they in on it? And like, even now when I'm looking through Instagram and stuff, if I see someone make a mistake in the captions, I'm thinking in my head, are they trying to do that deliberately, or are they, because they haven't fixed it? So it's like, am I thinking too much about it? Like, what is going on? And I just think these days it's very hard with socials now for people like to get that trust. So it's like, that must be a constant battle now with just how everything sort of lives online and how to get attention in like a crowded market.
Yeah, 100%. And from an agency perspective as well, like trying to produce content at volume while it's still being authentic to each of those brands is really difficult. And like, I know that we could be so much more efficient than what we are, but it would take I like to think we're pretty bloody efficient, but there could definitely be more efficiencies opened up there. But I'm like, it's going to take the authenticity away from what we do. It's going to take the strategic thinking away from what we do. It's going to mean that we can't respond to those pop culture moments, and it's just not going to get the client the result that they want because it's not going to connect with their community in the way that they were hoping it would. And look, I kind of laugh anytime like a typo manages to make its way through or something, because I just go, how is it even possible that a typo made it all the way through? But I guess the flip side of that is that, hey, we are actually humans behind creating your content. Are we using the shit out of AI to make our lives easier? Absolutely we are, but there is still a human at each and every touch point. And I think that's really important. And really important to us to actually genuinely produce really high quality content that moves the needle forward, rather than just being a big agency that just pumps out masses of AI slop and doesn't think twice about doing that.
I think AI, I think people are now starting to think like, all right, it belongs in some places and I don't care if it's like been through Claude or chat or whatever. It's like, I just want that info type of thing. So it's like, I think people are starting, it's like magazines, like I remember the surf magazines, you're looking through and like, I'm expecting ads on every second page and I don't mind it because it matches kind of the vibe. So it's like, I think that's kind of how it'll sort of end up. But it's weird now, like, are we marketing to agents now, or are we marketing to people? Like, there's going to be this whole new thing of like, what are we even creating this stuff for now? That's going to perform.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've just been doing some I've just been creating a bunch of presentations, and one of the presentations that I did a couple of weeks ago was on AEO and GEO, and talking about like, okay, how do we create content for the robots? And my thing has always been create content for humans, not algorithms. Caveat to that is there is some algorithm things to think about, but leave that up to the marketers. Don't worry about that if you're a small business owner. But yeah, thinking about, okay, how are we showing up within AI search? What does that look like? All right, we're going to create content in ways that they can absorb and that they can index and all of that kind of stuff. But I think the principles still come back to it, and it's the same way that I've always looked at SEO from a website perspective, is if you make content that is genuinely useful and that connects with people, all the rest will come from that. So we've been having a lot of conversations with people on that kind of AEO, GEO piece of what are the questions that your customers are asking. Create content that answers those questions. That's going to be great social media content. Your customers are going to feel really, or your potential customers are going to feel really well looked after. And then a happy accident of that is that the AI engines have information to pull from about who you are and what you do. We can see that within our own results. We're starting to see that within our clients' results, that yes, in one way we're making content for the robots, but at the heart of it, we're creating content for our customers. It's just a happy accident that it also works well for the robots.
I love that. Yeah, you got to be intentional, and why not set things up properly? And I think, like, I feel with like the SEO stuff, I feel like the best performed things and projects I've ever done has not really been thinking about that. It's just been about creating sick content that I think is just going to work. And it's like, that's just a byproduct. And I remember just looking years later, and seeing all this stuff on the first page, and I'm like, I didn't even think about this, and it sort of worked, And I think is that what you see, a common mistake of people who in brands, they just think like that they need to have all these things ready, but it's like, no, we need like a reason for people to care in the first place. Like, what are we doing in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. People need a reason to care, and I think the people will give you that reason. Like, they will give you the things to make content about if you just listen to them. If you listen to your real customers, but also if you just do your research on what it is that people are asking. And it all feels very meta, and it can feel very gross, but just things like, yes, AI is not necessarily coming up with real, with fresh ideas, but it's pretty good at figuring out, it's very good at figuring out what's already out there. So again, like I was doing a presentation the other day, and someone in the audience is like, okay, you keep talking about what questions your customers asking. I don't have any customers yet, so how do I know what questions they're asking? I'm like, ask the AI. Like, it will know. Tell it who your customer is. Tell it what you're trying to achieve. And it will spit out those answers and then create content that it's like, you've just got to listen. You've got to listen to what people want. And if that means you have to ask the robots what people want, do that. Create content that's genuine, and then put your spin on it to make it interesting and unique. And the rest just happens. It's not that complicated, I don't think, anyway.
No, I don't think either. And it's just like little things that I can think of off the top of my head. Like if you're typing sentences out or keywords in your industry, and then you're sort of seeing what the next things are suggested. So it's like, all right, people are typing for that. I think another good one is like Reddit. I think that's pretty underrated. Like seeing what people are saying in your industry and what questions they're asking, and then solving it through content with your spin on it, I think is another great way to think of it, because you're solving problems for humans. You're seeing what people are posting about and all their pain points, and then you can create solutions through content. So is it fun working on a bunch of different brands? Like when you have, I'm sure, like a bit of a playbook on strategies, like when one works with one, do you try test them out in different industries and just see what happens and like learn through experience?
Yeah, 100%. So we work across a really broad group of clients at Have and Hold. So we have everything from jewelers, Pilates studios, we've got a dentist, we've got a naturopath, we've got a doctor, we've got a curtains and blinds business, we've got a skincare company. Like, there's There's so much. There is something that we can pull from every single one of those clients to like feed each other, and ideas that we can share across, and things that have popped up in like different industries. And so personally, like, yes, I think there's power in niching down and just kind of focusing on one industry and the way that you can learn and improve over time. However, I do think oftentimes when agencies are working across 20 of the same category, they all just start to look like a clone of each other. Whereas I think, working across all of those different brands gives us a really great opportunity to be really unique in that content and learn from each of them. So even within each of our team members, like we have very different brands that sit under each of us. So it's not like you've got one team member that's focusing on real estate and one team member that's focusing on allied health. Like, we really mix it up a lot. But 100% there's so much testing and learning that we can do, and then we can, we all read each other's monthly reports, and so we can go, all right, I can see that thing worked really well on that account. Let's try and use that on this account and see if that works really well. I think equally having industry friends and following the accounts that your friends work on and being able to see what they are doing and getting out of your own little echo chamber. Particularly for us, we're a team of 3, like, that spend, 38 hours a week together. So, like, there's only so many ideas that we come up with. Also, living on an island has a lot of impact on the fact that we, if we're not conscious of it, we do kind of stay in our little echo chamber. Watching what others are doing and watching our industry friends, seeing what they're up to, seeing what their accounts are doing and what's working really well for them definitely helps us improve across the board for all of our clients.
Oh, I love that. And I think like what you're doing there is perfect. Like, when others are zigging, you zag, and I feel like you've got different insights through like just personal experience, where quick wins are just like different tactics that other industries use that can just simply just be reapplied, and it feels fresh, So I'm sure like getting fresh reactions and new things like that when you're working with clients must be like the kicker and the motivation after working with you and seeing like results like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, working on like the boring industries, you'd be surprised the ideas that it gives you and the different people that you meet and the different ideas that you hear. I know for a long time I really resisted, and I wanted those arts clients and I wanted those e-commerce clients, and that's all I wanted to do. It's amazing the things we can learn from our more corporate clients or from our allied health clients, and the conversations that we hear them having, that they often have such like a one-on-one from like a health perspective. They have such a one-on-one relationship with their customer. So just everywhere you look, there's incredible ideas and incredible learnings no matter what.
And how do you learn? Like, I'm sure like building all this and being in tune with like culture and trends, and it's just such a fast-paced industry. Like, how do you make sure that you've put in boundaries and doing all those things? Because I'm sure like I've felt burnout at a lot of different stages, and it's like, for me, it's like having that light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I'm happy to do whatever, but as long as there's like an end date to something or things like that, like they're the kind of things that I've put in place like psychologically for me. But is there anything for you where you've had to learn the hard way maybe?
Yeah, boundaries? I've gotten a lot better. I've definitely gotten a lot better at boundaries. It's a catch-22 because I do think in this industry you have to be chronically online. Like, I don't think there's really any choice but to do that. 100% you have to put boundaries around it. My screen time is next level. It's ridiculous. I always laugh when I hear Zara Jarvis, who works with Stephen Bartlett these days, saying that her goal is to actually increase her screen time. I think that's hilarious. But mine is definitely disgusting. One of the boundaries that I'm trying to put in place is that I've replaced my Kindle with a library card. So I'm reading actual physical books. So I'm not just looking at another screen and only reading fiction. Like, I think just getting out of that that continuous scroll and just the algorithm that will just figure out exactly what you need at that exact moment to kind of keep you going, helps a lot. So getting out of that. I'm a crazy person. I have 2 phones. It works for me, though. From like a client perspective, I think when you work in social and you work in this always on kind of space, it's really hard to not be always on. So having a work phone that my clients only have that phone number. If they wanted to, they can find me. Like in an emergency, they will get to me. But most of the time, it's not that. They don't need to. As incredible as they all are, I actually don't have any, believe it or not, right now that push boundaries. Like they're really good with that kind of stuff. But just not having the opportunity to see the message, and also not having all of those accounts notifications blowing up my phone all the time makes a massive, massive, massive difference. I do also think you have to have a balance, particularly in agency life, of having accounts that you're super passionate about and having accounts that you could take it or leave it. Like you are still working really hard on them. You're working just as hard as you would on any other. You're still producing really good results and you're making sure that that's the case, but you're not so emotionally attached to it. I can only have one client at any one time that I have a really close relationship with, that I'm really passionate about the project, because otherwise there's just no stopping me. Like it's just constant. So yeah, making sure that I don't get too obsessive over multiple clients at once. I give myself one to be obsessive over. But other than that, I do just have to kind of treat them as clients while still making sure that, yeah, I am getting the best result for them.
No, I love that. And something you mentioned earlier, like that learning versus escaping. Like I found like when I'm in the zone, like I love learning and feel like, oh, I can just apply this knowledge to whatever I'm doing, versus I find like I'm doing that for like weeks and then it's like, I just need to escape and watch like Avatar or something, like just something that's just not real. I know it's not real. I can dumb it down. I can watch a reality show. Like, you know, like I think that's why it's okay. Like I think for some like products and businesses, it's okay to be escapism, you know, like
100%.
Like that's fine. Like I feel like everyone sort of thinks sometimes that it all has to be about learning and things like that. But like escapism, I think, is important to be able to function successfully in what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And you need to be able to. You need to be able to step away from it. Like, I know I would say I've only had one period of like proper burnout, and I knew that it was bad because I couldn't write. Like, and that's not something that ever happens to me. Like, the words will always come. But yeah, so that was a period of time. I was working on a festival. Festivals are crazy, like intense. They're just all consuming. You really can't do anything else. And I think I had done, it was like May through till October. I hadn't had a single day off and I was doing like 12-hour days every day. Like that kind of work, like, yeah, if you need to do it for a month or whatever, you can. But for that long, it's just not sustainable. So yeah, making sure that you do step away and that you do have that time off, because you just get stuck in such a cycle that you're so exhausted, and so then you're not productive, and so then you don't have any time to stop and breathe. So yeah, I definitely think you do need to disconnect for sure. I'm just going to answer the second part of your question that you asked before that I didn't get to, about education and learning. So we put a lot of emphasis on not believing that we know everything and paying other experts in our space to either give us a fresh perspective on something or directly tell us whether we're doing something or not. So we're big Digital Picnic fans, love them to pieces, and you know, I'm lucky enough to be friends with a lot of the team, but we spend stupid amounts of money for an agency our size. We spend stupid amounts of money with them, because at the end of the day, they are the experts in terms of education and in terms of training. And so I make sure that my team go through all of their training. I attend their conferences. I'm hoping that in the future years I'll be able to afford to take the rest of the team to those conferences. But yeah, the team know that if they come to me, even if it's not TDP stuff, but if the team come to me with any education stuff that they want to do, as long as they can demonstrate the value of it to the business, I'll pay for it. Like, I think it's really important that we have this obsession with learning, and we have an obsession with knowing that we don't know everything, and talking to the experts, talking to the people that have been doing this for a longer period of time to us, or that work on kind of bigger accounts than us, and getting their perspectives and taking as much knowledge as we can, and investing our time and investing our money in that.
And I think it makes the employees trust more, because it's like, yeah, I know that humans don't know everything. And the fact that if you're trying to pretend that you do, I don't know, it just comes across as a bit inauthentic. So when you say things and allow things like that, like we're doing the exact same thing. We're getting other people coming in to take over certain tasks because we need a fresh perspective on something. And it's like, it's not a dent to the ego or anything. It's like, no, we're addicted to get a really good result. Like, hey, we all definitely know that these things need to be like worked on and figured out, because a lot of the time we're in the weeds doing it all the time, thinking about it all the time, obsessing over it. And it's like, it can be loops that are just in your head where you're just like, I just need someone to like, who can zoom out and just give me some inspiration, or give the team some inspiration to, you know, really like cement what you're thinking and been feeling. So I think like the fact that you offer that, like, I think that's where smart companies are going, hey, because loyalty, security, the way the world's going, it's very hard at the moment. So I think like if you can show you care through actions and things like that goes a long way, I feel like, in creating something like sustainable.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also going on kind of the opposite side of that is I try and make sure that we always have some level of like coaching contract. Preferably the way that we do it is we do some level of coaching with the government. So we have some level of access to small businesses that really are like their day one businesses, or they have really low tech skills or whatever that is, because I think we can get so caught up in strategy and how do we milk the most out of something, and, you know, aiming for these bigger and bigger and bigger clients. And as frustrating as it can be sometimes, sitting down with a business owner who might have never done this before, might have recently moved to Australia and their English isn't great, whatever that is, and just being like, oh, okay, how do we set up a Facebook page? Like, let's just go real back to basics. And I think that stuff keeps us as sharp as paying thousands of dollars for a really high-level course. Like, they're both equally as valuable to us.
And I think in our world, the basics can just get thrown to the wayside a lot, because there's always new, fresh things, and it's like, all right, that old way's dead. But I feel like the same principles always like apply through like things that work. So it's like, I love that. It's like, that's a good way to frame it and think about stuff as well. It's like, if we can just get these foundations right, like, things will be sweet, you know? But honestly, Kelsey, this has been awesome. I can't wait to drop this chat. Like, learned so much, wrote a bunch of notes, and I reckon we've got to get you on again at the end of the year and just see how things are going, and maybe get over to Tassie. I feel like it's my favourite state. It's so cool.
Do you ride mountain bikes?
Yeah, I have before, but I wouldn't call myself a mountain bike rider. But I do love hiking. I do love wineries and breweries. And
Con Rich into coming back over to do a mountain biking trip. Maybe he won't fall off and break his collarbone. We'll try and stop him from doing that. Bring the whole skid team to Tassie. We'll show you around.
I like that. I'll send an email and CC you in later. We can make that happen. But Kelsey, thank you so much. Honestly, love this chat.
Amazing. Thank you so much.